Hello and welcome to the big picture. As last part of the series on 1 year of NDA government, which we have done here at the big picture over the last 1 week, today we will look at the crucial sector of defense. In the last 1 year of the NDA government, one of the areas which have received quite a bit of attention is the Defense Ministry and the Armed Forces. The Indian Army was seen a couple of months after the new NDA government took over, facing and retaliating against the heavy Pakistani shelling in Jammu-Samba sector. Later, it was faced with incursions from the Chinese army in Ladakh when the Chinese President Xi Jinping was in India. Then there was a change of the Defense Minister from Arun Jaitley to Manohar Parrikar. Much has been discussed about the unusual Rafale deal with France. The issue of one rank, one pension has also rankled the defense forces. Today, we will look at all this and discuss and analyze the performance in this sector during the last 1 year and what lies ahead. To discuss this, I have with me Lieutenant General Raj Kadyan, Vice Chief of Army Staff retired, Ajay Prasad, former Defence Secretary, Government of India, Air Vice Marshal, retired, Kapil, a Defence Analyst, Captain Alok Bansal, Executive Director, SAISA, and R. Prasannan, Chief of Bureau of the Week magazine. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Ajay Prasad, when you look at this last 1 year, how do you look at this last 1 year as far as the Defence Ministry and the Defence Forces are concerned?
I would say that this year that has just passed has seen a number of achievements in the defence sector, and also there have been some major misses. So it's a question of some hits and some misses. Among the achievements that you can recount is at the very beginning of the new government taking over, the decision to increase the FDI in defense sector was, I think, a major decision. Then followed the program of Make in India and the attempts to indigenize as much as possible the defense production activities within the country, rather than buying them, which we do at present. About 70% of our defense procurement is external. So these two steps, I think, were major. Then there have been now reforms in the procurement processes. The offset clauses are being reworked, and we are hearing about a new defense procurement procedure 2015 going to come in shortly. So I think these are the major achievements. If you look at where the achievements have not been so good, the most glaring thing is what you referred to recently is the failure to take a decision on one rank, one pension. I think this is something which is causing great resentment among the services. This was promised by the previous government, again reiterated at the highest levels in the present government, but yet there is no definite date available on which this would be put into effect. Right. I think this is one very glaring omission on the part of this government. Okay, the other things that one could refer to is also that with all this talk of Make in India, not much progress has so far been made. There is some talk of private sector coming in, but much more needs to be done to get private sector fully involved. So I would say the year past is a mixed one. Mixed bag. And with some good achievements, but also some failures.
Okay. Alok Bansal, I think that Mr. Ajay Prasad has laid out some of given an outline of what has happened. But when we come specifically to the issues of defense forces and the kind of challenges which they have faced, and one of the things which is always talked about is the preparedness, is the kind of equipment and ammunition which they have. So you think that this government has been able to, get its act together as far as these issues are concerned?
See, there is no doubt that the government has shown its intent. But one of the biggest problems in Indian government is that the bureaucracy is intractably hostile to the armed forces. And as a result, any political initiative that the politicians take is actually thwarted. At every step, the bureaucracy tries to scuttle anything that is to be given to the armed forces. And the one rank, one pension, which is at this point of time the most emotive issue, has been dealt with in a similar manner by the same bureaucracy. And to a very great extent, very often, the bureaucracy in India works as armed forces versus the bureaucracy rather than they are both working in tandem. Otherwise, the government has given a right intent by increasing the FDI and giving a big thrust on Make in India. I think Prime Minister Modi managed to resolve the Rafale deal, which had been hanging fire for a very long time, and the critical shortage in the Air Force was made good. We have had the second aircraft carrier being launched. Indigenous aircraft carrier which is being built has been launched. What I gather in my conversations is that the defense forces feel that now they don't have to lobby with the government or anything which they can justify as justifiably required for the defense of the country is invariably granted. I think there is a better understanding of matters defense, at least with the politicians.
Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Prasannan, would you agree with him that, you know, the attitude of the government has changed? He's talking about how the government's response towards the needs of the defense forces are more readily, you know, at least if not met at this point of time?
Yes, while agreeing with Captain Bansal on that point, that the bureaucracy has been the major kind of block towards decision making.
And this has always been the case.
It has always been the case. That's exactly what I was trying to say. Because if that has been the case all the time, there was a lot of expectation when this government came to power that this would be a government that would override this kind of blocking by the stumbling block by the bureaucracy and take decisions faster and quicker. If that has not happened, I would consider that also a kind of setback, a minus point on the part of this government, that it has not been able to overcome those same old roadblocks that had been there all these years, last 10 years or so, it has been there. So that is one minus point. But otherwise, yes, decision making has been much quicker and more information is coming out about the decision making. Yes, that is there. But at the same time, what kind of on Make in India, what kind of investments have actually been taking place, we still don't know. Only when the proof of the pudding is finally in the eating. So that hasn't come in yet. So only when we can take I mean, it may take a few more months, but let's wait.
Right at the beginning, as Mr. Prasad was pointing out, FDI in defense was, you know, approved and all that. It's been almost now 10 months or so, but you don't think any serious investments have come in through that route?
No, nothing major. Yes, of course, the Avro replacement with the Tatas, it has come in. A few of them have been taken, but we need to see a lot more in this sector, because that is one crucial area. As Mr. Ajay Prasad had earlier said, 70% of the equipment we are still buying from abroad.
Right.
Now, if some serious decision is taken and some serious steps are being taken on that, unless it is being done, we are going to go down the same path that we have been going down all these years.
Okay. Mr. Ajay Prasad, before I go to the other two gentlemen here, I would like you to answer this question, which both Alok Bansal and Prasannan talks about the bureaucracy having been the stumbling block. How do you react to that? You have been there in that seat before, and obviously when they're talking of stumbling block, you're also supposed to have been.
I have been a part of the so-called bureaucracy in the Defense Ministry, and I totally disagree with what has been said by the two speakers about the bureaucracy being at loggerheads and antagonistic to the defense forces. If that was there, a number of reforms that were put in the higher defense management after the group of ministers met after the Kargil review report came in, the whole restructuring that took place, the creation of the Defense Procurement Board, the jointness efforts that were made in the services, etc., that were all pushed through in the ministry. If there was an antagonistic position, that was not there. While there is true that our procedures are still cumbersome and they have to be followed, because if you don't follow the procedures, you know what happens.
Yes.
The CAG, the CVC and every other organization keeps blaming and pointing fingers at the so-called deals within deals and things like that. So the procedure takes time. But to say that, there is a deliberate obstruction or antagonism between the services is something I totally reject.
Okay, sir. Okay. General Kadyan, I don't want to carry this forward too much, but since both of you have been there in those positions, do you think that it is the bureaucracy which is a stumbling block, or you think that the way the whole procurement procedure has been designed is the problem?
Girish, I partially agree with Ajay Prasad. The strong perception is that the bureaucracy is the stumbling block. But bureaucracy never speaks. They don't come on the media. They don't give public statements. I think if there is a strong political will, no bureaucrat will be able to stand in the way. I will give you an example. In 1983, there was a case for officers' free rations. It kept getting delayed till the defense minister and the army chief walked up to the prime minister that time, Srimati Indira Gandhi, less than 10 days, and they said, look, if it is not announced on 26 January, because there is a perception that it will come through, then it will be a very awkward situation. She got that through within that 1 week or 10 days. So I think if there is a strong political will. Now, coming back to the main point, when I look at the defense preparedness of the country, I look at a different format. There are three elements. One is the man in front. He is priority one. His psychological, his material needs must be looked after. Because I believe in the theory that machines and missiles don't win wars. It is the man who does. Today, the point came up on one rank, one pension, although that is not the theme of the discussion.
That is part of the discussion.
That's a stumbling block.
Yeah.
And it is sending a very, very negative signal, both retired, of course, to the serving, because they're future veterans. Also, the irony is that the people who are serving today are the sons and wards of the people who are retired. Right. No bureaucrat, no politician, no industrialist sends a child to the defense forces. So, if you insult a father and then expect that the son will not be affected, I think it's not realistic. So first priority is this. Second is the wherewithal that we give him, arms, ammunition, equipment, on which the present government has made a start. I think defense is too vast and too complicated to expect results within 1 year,
right.
Whether it is FDI or the procurement procedure, but things have started moving. I think BJP deserves to be congratulated on that. And third is the organizational structure at Delhi. In that, there has been no improvement. The defense forces do not still form part of the decision-making loop. There is a talk, it has been recommended many times, of Chief of Defense Staff. We are the third largest army. Even England, which is a very tiny army, has got a Chief of Defense Staff. We can call him by any other name, call him Sena Pramukh or whatever. But the talk that is going on is that they will make a permanent arrangement of the chairman, chiefs of staff committee. At the moment, out of the three chiefs, the oldest serving chief takes over.
You're right.
But that is making an ad hoc arrangement permanent. It is not going to solve the problem. Either we let it be the way it is not going to change, or unless you give both responsibility and authority to one authority, even if you make a chairman, he is the same rank.
He is the same rank.
The soldier's loyalty will still be with the service chief.
They're all equals.
Now, bureaucracy, my last comment is that as the system has evolved, Mr. Ajay Prasad said so, a bureaucrat is procedure-oriented. The defense forces are result-oriented. That's why there is a mismatch. At the end of the year, we go for results. He goes, I have followed so many rules and procedures, and he thinks he's
Kapil Kag, you think that continues even today? And about defense modernization reforms, what has been the progress in this last 1 year?
So much has been said by the eminent speakers just now. Maybe I will address 4 or 5 issues continuously. Number one is that the NDA government in 1 year has perceptionally and visibly shown far greater decisiveness than the last year or perhaps even 2 years of the UPA. On that, there is no doubt. But let's also come to the facts of the issue. For example, thinking outside the box, the decision to have 36 Rafale aircraft as a stopgap before the final decision has in a sense created a level of assurance within the Air Force that nation cares, that we were very, very weak. Secondly, on the issue of, when you look at, here the bureaucracy comes, and I think I want to make a point here, that the decision to pare down the Mountain Strike Corps from 90,000 to 35,000 in terms of allocation, and for personnel also
downsizing the
Now here is what I would like to suggest. Both can't be right. Either NDA is wrong or the UPA is wrong. I say this for the simple reason that the decision to have this Mountain Strike Corps is not the decision of the Defence Minister. There are the Chiefs of Staff Committee, there is the Ministry of Defence, there is the DRDO, there is the Defence Production Agencies, there is the National Security Advisor who looks at the threat perception based on the inputs given to him. If that decision has been made, I can't understand what sudden political wisdom has dawned upon the Prime Minister and the Defence Minister to take a step which halves that capability. This was an effective counter-deterrence in terms of how you manage China. I come to the last point. FDI 49% in defence is non sequitur. If you talk to the people who will invest, they want controlling interest, and within the procedures, which Mr. Ajay Prasad has also been addressing, within the procedures we have to create new mechanisms. As Alvin Toffler said years ago, yesterday in today's time was an age ago. You have to alter it's not that the institution will drive India. India must drive the institution without, for a moment, I'm not suggesting disregard CBC, disregard monitoring mechanism, not at all. But evolve more creative structures. I'd like to say the bureaucracy will have to reinvent itself with the current times where the aspiration levels are so high. The world is expecting so much from India. But and Oliver Twist we want more. People want more.
Sir, the question is, when you say that bureaucracy has to reinvent itself, can it reinvent itself without the political will?
Without the political will will drive that
Absolutely.
process.
Well, whether that political will...
But I want to make one last point. In fact, two, very quickly. Number one, Girish, is this is a government which meant business and defence and security. I would have thought the first thing they would do is to ensure there is a full-fledged defence minister. Half the tenure of this government was with one defence minister.
Now we have a
second. Related to this, the first thing they need to do, in which all that my eminent panelists and I have said would fit in, is a strategic defence review. A review has been made by the National Security Advisory Board, as far as I know. It has been given to the Prime Minister. I want to know what is the problem of keeping the classified parts within the government and let the public know.
Absolutely.
And lastly on this, I agree with Raj completely on this. There is no need to call this Chairman, Chiefs of Staff Committee, Permanent Chairman, Chiefs of Staff. Have a Chief of Defence Staff doing exactly what
a five-star Chief of Defence
No, it will have to be a 4-star. It can never be a 5-star. It will have to be primus inter pares with the other chiefs. Other chiefs will control, command the formations. He will only be an administrative head of the nuclear forces and the advisor to the government.
Prasannan, I just want one clarification. When what Kapil was talking about, this downsizing of the Mountain Strike Corps, what caused that downsizing? What caused that cut of the expenditure also?
That's what exactly the mystery is about, and what has prompted the government to cut the size of this the Mountain Strike Corps, which was, ironically, the only major decision taken by the previous government in terms of upgrading the strategic capabilities of this of the nation or the armed forces. So that is the only decision which has been now reversed also. So it is still the government ought to explain the rationale behind this downsizing of the strike corps. Was it because of certain other foreign policy imperatives that we have, some other compulsions do we have? That needs to be explained. That's where the discussion on strategic matters, which Kapil was talking about, that more transparency is needed, and also the further discussions.
Alok Bansal, the question is, every time we talk of defence, we talk of more allocations, then there should be more allocations for defence. But we are told that in this last year, there has been underutilization of funds to the extent of over 20,000 crores of rupees. Why do you think that has happened?
Yeah, this is what I was trying to say. See, my co-panelists have been brushing it under the carpet. There is a problem with the bureaucracy. The problem is you sent a proposal, it doesn't get cleared. The bureaucracy expects the defense forces to run after the files, get them processed. The whole process, the higher defense organization is deeply flawed. A chap who was looking after Post and Telegraph Department comes and starts lording over the defense forces without knowing ABC of defense. And Mr. Ajay Prasad may say there is nothing wrong with it, but I have seen the bureaucrats, by virtue of the fact that he's a bureaucrat, he thinks he's superior to an armed forces officer.
So you're saying that the underutilization, the blame lies squarely with the bureaucracy for underutilization.
To a great extent. To some extent with the defense forces also. Because defense forces also at the higher level have now started becoming bureaucracy of their own. They have created their own bureaucracies which are as inefficient as the civilian bureaucracy is. But this is primarily a problem of bureaucracy where the process of acquisition which are initiated takes years for fruition. And as a result, the budgets do not get released.
Okay. Mr. Ajay Prasad, would you like to react to that first? And then I want you to look at this, out of the box solutions which we have witnessed recently as far as the Rafale deal is concerned. How it will be looked at, whether this is the way it should go forward, and what will happen to the Make in India program and all those things. But first, would you like to react to what Alok Bansal said about the underutilization?
No, really, I don't wish to react to that statement, but I would like to confine myself to the other part of your question, and that is what do we do about the Make in India program and how do we try to make it a success? Now, one of the things, important points is what was referred to earlier also, that 49% FDI is not adequate. Whichever manufacturer, an international manufacturer would like to part with this technology, would like to retain control over the technology. And therefore, having only a 49% stake does not encourage them to do so. I think a decision would require to be taken that this FDI limit must be increased to 74% to effectively make this. The second point that I wish to make in this regard is that when we talk about involving the Indian private sector into manufacturing, one of the hesitations is that the huge capital outlay, and with government being the only buyer of this product, there is no guarantee to the private investor as to whether his product will be purchased. Now, some kind of an assure mechanism will have to be built up where his investments are utilized and he gets a return on his investment. One of the ways that I feel is that some of our major defense public undertakings like HAL, like Mazagon Docks, they have order books which run into years. Now there are private investments have come into this sector. Now why can't a collaborative arrangement be made where some of the work can be offloaded under a technical control and supervision of the public sector undertaking to these private entities so that their investment is utilized and they get a return on their capital. If we build up these mechanisms, then only the private sector will be more encouraged to invest.
Would you agree with that, General Kadyan?
I first want to make a comment to what Mr. Bansal said. I think I fully agree with him when he says that you post people in the Ministry of Defense who have no knowledge. We have a situation where the people who are specialists have no decision-making ability. People who take decisions have no knowledge. I have been interacting with the MOD staff. For example, the UPA government created a department called Ex-Servicemen Welfare Department. I have gone to them, they don't even understand the army ranks. So what welfare will...
Sir, this has been discussed enough.
I'm coming to this solution to it.
One second.
I'm coming to the solution to it. There must be a greater integration between the service headquarters.
No, that's okay. But, as far as private sector in defense is concerned, do you think that, now it is quite, as far as FDI is concerned, all of you agree that 49% is not going to bring in the kind of investments from, foreign direct investments. But as far as the Indian domestic private sector is concerned, you think that is there a roadmap which this government has provided to the private sector, domestic private sector, to get into defense production?
I think they have made a beginning and they must be brought in. You know, there may be some sensitive equipment which can be kept out of the purview. But the normal equipment, I mean, why do we have to import jackets, for example, or boots, or helmets? These, and I think there is already a move. We have a gun indigenously produced.
No, I think the point that has been made on the private sector is a really, really good one. Unfortunately, the culture, and this is, I'm sorry, I don't agree with the proposition that bureaucracy has to be blamed for everything that's wrong with the system. Yes, there are constraints and we are all in evolving democracy.
No, and so therefore the question of reforming the entire system, the entire procurement system.
That's the point I made earlier. Yes. I'm glad you endorsed that. But here I'd like to mention that there is because there is a bureaucracy and the public sector undertakings, particularly HAL and the defense production, are so close to each other, it's a mutual admiration society. You don't allow anybody else to come in. It's taken me in the Center for Air Power Studies with 10 or 11 conferences, international conferences, to put on the table, some of them Mr. Ajay Prasad has been there, that look, in India, most of the technology now is available in the private sector. There is nothing they can't take on as a challenge. Bring them on board. Secondly, this business about sensitivity of some equipment which General Raj Kadyan is talking about, private sector has handled some of the most top secret ultra sensitive projects of India. I don't want to name them. So therefore, it can be done very effectively because that's where the technologies are. Yes, the point about they have to have firm order books, therefore you have to give them a firm order. I think they're not even asking for that because once they know a product, they know will sell in the world, our labor costs are still low compared to China or elsewhere. We'll sell the products outside. But here the problem, I just want to end this point, is the grand strategic objective of India at this point of time in defense is acquisition of the highest levels of technology. Whatever it takes in terms of institutional reform, dynamism of policies and engaging the world, like Mr. Modi is so beautifully doing, he is engaging the world which admires him and his leadership and the government in trying to see how he can build up. The Make in India is not a slogan in that sense, but to facilitate the entire external environment in such a way that your Make in India becomes effective at the moment. I mean,
okay, sir, we're running out of time.
Sorry.
Yes, Alok, quickly.
Just 2-3 points I just wanted to say, because there have been certain criticisms of the government as to why it's not been able to overcome the bureaucratic impediment. The first factor is that you must understand that this government lacks experience. The ministers who have earlier served in the government have been lacking, and that's one of the reasons why we had to do with a makeshift defense minister for a particular period of time. The defense minister is well-meaning, but takes time to get to know people because he's learning the things and you will see the results. Secondly, as far as FDI is concerned, under Make in India, cent percent FDI is permitted. Rafael actually collaborated with Reliance to set up a private production facility, but the previous UPA government insisted on HAL, and that is one of the reasons why Rafael had to actually back down. And that is where the thing is. And I think large number of private sector players are now coming in. Large number of ship orders have been given to private shipyards, etc. And this will give them a fillip. Another factor which private sector needs is funding support because they are small players and they need a little.
Okay, Prasannan, very quick last words to you. You think that the entire, as far as the government is concerned, their policies, as far as, if you have to look ahead for the coming years, the next 2-3 years, their plans and vision is on track?
As of now, it is on track. But again, as I said, it is when it comes to implementation, we still don't know. Yes, the government is new. A lot of ministers are inexperienced and all that. But I don't think that would also work as an excuse for any government because all governments come in without much of an experience.
We are completely run out of time.
But you rely on a bureaucracy. You rely on a bureaucracy which is experienced. You have the wherewithal. The infrastructure is already there. Now, it is what is needed is a political will to overcome the impediments.
Okay, so I think on that note, we need to end. We're completely, sorry, General Kadyan, we're completely run out of time. But, it has been an interesting discussion. The political will needs to be shown. We hope that like some of the panelists said, that there has been some good beginnings in this year. We'll wait and watch how it will be taken forward in the coming year. Thanks to all my guests. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue in the big picture same time on Monday. Meanwhile, have a great weekend.